Okay, hello. Today we're going to do a little technical support walkthrough of a vinyl cutter. Um, this unit is a servo-driven machine. So before you do anything on the inside of a vinyl cutter, the first thing you're going to want to do is unplug the cutter from the power cord. So make sure that your power is off and that the power cord is removed. Safety first. For this cutter, I've been kind of working on it, so I've got some of it already disassembled. But the first thing you're going to want to do here is remove the end caps. These end caps have 4 fasteners, 2 of them here and here, 2 of them in the bottom corners. So it's pretty easy to access the fasteners. Once you take the fasteners out, the end caps will be removable. I'm going to go through on the left-hand side here first. So as you remove the end cap, you'll see that the power outlet and switch is actually connected to the end cap here. So be careful when you remove the end cap that you don't tug on the wires too much. So if you ever have to replace this part, you can see that how it's accessed. You can remove the 4 fasteners, remove it from the end cap, and then you can follow the wiring into the machine to replace this part. Also on this side, you'll see we have a drive motor here. This is a servo motor. If you ever have to replace the servo motor for the carriage, it's on the left side here. So this is the carriage drive. Other thing to note is your belt here. See, this is the drive belt, which drives the carriage. And you can check its tension here to see if it's loose or not. This one's not loose. It's about right. So if you ever had to tension the belt, what you would do is loosen these fasteners here, pull on the servo motor that way, and then tighten them back up, and that would apply tension to the belt. So that's how that belt is tightened. Also here you can see that this is the drive wheel for the carriage belt. The carriage belt goes through here, through a channel in the back of the rail here. And we'll get more about that in a minute here. But that's kind of what's going on here on the left side. So now I'm going to draw your attention to the right side of the machine. Okay, similarly, similar screws on this side. These end caps are actually identical, so you can remove those. And in this case, I have the USB connector here. This is a very common part to have to replace on a vinyl cutter. A lot of times the connection port here gets bad over time with the vibration of the cutter and the USB connection there. So this port board gets replaced occasionally on machines. But you're going to want to be careful that when you open this, that you don't pull on this connector too much, because this could become loose here, or it could disconnect from the motherboard in the machine. So this piece you can see is easily replaced. Note that connections are often hot glued from the manufacturer. We hot glue the connections here as well, and that's to make sure that in shipping they don't come disconnected. Also note the orientation. You've got the blue tab on the connector facing that way, and the pin side facing this way. So that just connects in here with the similar 4 fasteners as the other side. Also note on this end, we have the belt tensioner here. This is the belt tensioner for the carriage belt. You can kind of pull on the belt a little bit to kind of get a feel for its tension. That's about right for its tension. So it doesn't need to be have any more tension applied, but if you needed to apply tension, this is where you would do it, right here. So next step here, very common, you'll have to possibly replace the Teflon cutting strip. The cutting strip is right here. This one I've already replaced, and it's easy to replace, but when you replace it, there's 3 pieces that go to it. There's a double-sided sticky tape that goes under the Teflon. There's the Teflon strip, and then there's some cover tape that goes over it. For the cover tape, you might be using regular tape like I did here, or you might be using Teflon cover tape if you're cutting window tint or something like that. make sure before you replace everything that everything is cleaned out as much as it possibly can be. You know, remove all the residue from the tape. We recommend using some alcohol and a little alcohol pad to kind of scrub it. You can also scrub it with a toothbrush. And we have lots of toothbrushes here for scrubbing out the strip area to get rid of all the residue. So next up, I got my little cheat sheet here. So to access the area above the carriage and the carriage rail, what you want to do is you want to rotate this plate up. This plate is held in place with 4 fasteners. I'm just going to remove the front 2 fasteners, which will allow this to pivot up. Now don't pull on it too hard because these cables might be in tension. You can see that the keypad is here, and the keypad can be replaced by removing these 4 fasteners underneath it and these cables that come down around and go into the machine to the motherboard. So they have to be disconnected from the motherboard, pulled through, remove this, and then put the next one, the new one on, and then you can tether it here and make sure that this cable goes through this slot, not this slot. This slot over here is only for the carriage position sensor cable, not for the keypad cable. The keypad cable goes here. Okay, so once you have that up, you can see the carriage, on top of the carriage. So this is your carriage cable. Comes up around here like this. And this is the carriage position sensor. Note that the carriage position sensor is on the underside of this bracket. And that's important because it has to drop down far enough for the sensors that are underneath this board to touch the rail. So replacing this cable and the carriage position sensor is common because this is flexing all the time, and as it flexes every once in a while, the cable inside, the wires inside will break, and you might have to replace this, or this board might go bad, and you might have to replace that. Note that when you replace this, always take a picture so you can see the cabling. You got black, red, but you don't know which is the laser dot and which is the drive wires for the solenoid. So you're going to want to take off this carriage cover, which I'm going to do right now. So right now, the carriage is locked on the machine. It's not going to come off because it's got these fasteners interfere with the spring-loaded mechanism that allow it to be removed. So you take this fastener off here, and then you take this fastener off here. And sometimes for cleaning the Teflon strip area, it's a lot easier to get at it and to apply the new strip when you've got this top cover up, because now you can see, you can come straight down on it. You can look down on in the trough with a magnifying glass if you want to. So you've got better visibility here if you've got this pivoted up. So with those 2 fasteners gone, I can remove my cover. Careful, because a laser, or if you have an ARM system, these cables will be connected. But here you can see which cables go to which terminals in the terminal block. And you'll want to take a picture of that and note it so you know. So when you're assembling the new carriage position sensor board, which cables go where. You can see here the springs associated with the carriage. In this case, these carriages come off the rail. They're spring loaded. And so in this case, all we have to do is push down. So if you push straight down and pivot the bottom out, don't pivot it out too far, because if you do, you might damage the sensors that are underneath this carriage position sensor board. So just a slight angle to pull it up, and then pull it up, and then it'll pivot off the rail. So now it's disconnected from the rail. You can see those optic sensors I was talking about over here. So these guys are important that these don't get damaged when you take this on and off. But so with the carriage off now, you can see how to replace the carriage. You can see behind here how the carriage gets connected. Every once in a while, a carriage belt will break, and this is how you replace the carriage belt as well. So you would take these fasteners out. It would disconnect the carriage belt from the carriage, and then you'd be able to string a new belt through the back of the rail. Now, don't remove this belt until you have the new belt. And so what you can do is disconnect it from here, bring it out, keep it in the back of the rail, and then tape the new belt end to the old belt end and pull the new belt through the back of the rail with the old belt. This is a shorter machine. This is a 720, so it's not quite as long. You can fish it through also with like a coat hanger. But if you have a really long machine, like an 1800 or something, it's very convenient to use the old belt to pull the new belt through. So that's how you access that. You can see brass clips here. One of the ends of the cable of the belt will be loose, and then you'll have to install this cable clip, belt clip, to hold one end of the belt to size. So you'll size the belt, and then you use this clip to clip it like that, and then you fasten it back in. To reassemble it, a similar way. So what you're going to do is you're going to put the top on the rail, and you're going to be careful not to damage those sensors underneath there, and make sure that they straddle the rail correctly. So these wheels go here, the sensors on that rail, all nice and good. Push straight down and then in, and then it's on the rail again. So then we can go and we can reassemble this and put the fasteners back in. Okay, next we're going to go take a look underneath here. So this is the front deck plate and the rear deck plate back here. Oh wait, before I move on to that, the pinch rollers. So pinch rollers, every once in a while you might have to replace a pinch roller. The pinch roller wheels, the little rubber wheels, they can be swapped out without removing the pinch rollers. There's an E-ring clip here and here on each side. You can use a little screwdriver to pop off the E-ring clip and then push the pin through, and you can use a pair of, once you tap it through on one side with a hammer, you can use pliers or needle nose pliers to pull the pin out on the other side, put the new wheel in, and then squeeze the pin back through, and then replace the E-clip here. Careful not to lose the E-clips, because when you pop it off, it has a tendency to want to fly wherever it goes. So make sure you do it in an area where you can recover the E-clip if it decides to spring away on you. To remove the pinch rollers, however, if you need to replace an entire assembly, you can see here on the left and right there's a bar here, a common actuator bar. That bar has to be removed and slid out. And you can do that by removing the little set screws here on these plastic collars on the left and on the right. So take these little screws out. There's one on the left and there's one on the right. Then this bar will slide through. When that bar slides through, you'll have to pull it through each of these pinch rollers till you get to the pinch roller you want to replace. Same thing with the lever arm, the plastic lever arm. Also move it from this side, slide it out to get the plastic lever arm off. These pinch rollers can slide off the rail on the left-hand side then. Once this bar is removed, then you can put the new pinch roller on, then put the bar back on, and repeat the steps in reverse to put it back together. Okay, now going underneath, I'm pulling off this deck plate. I already took the fasteners off. There's 4 fasteners on the front of the deck plate to have it removed. Same thing with the back. And then it just rotates up and pulls out. Here you can see the motherboard, and you can see the power supply. Either of these components are easily replaceable. Some models might have a trap door underneath for your motherboard, which will a little plastic door that allows you to pop out the motherboard without taking the deck plates off. That's nice and convenient. In this case, you can see some of our connections are actually underneath the rail here. Very difficult to get at with your fingers. So if that's the case, you can actually drop the tray. So if you want to drop the tray, you can take these nuts and washers off, and the tray will come down a little bit, and that will provide the access and clearance for you to get to these areas back here underneath the rail if you need to. But if you're just replacing like a USB port or something, you can get to that easily right here. As I mentioned, everything is hot glued, so you'll have to peel off the hot glue with a pair of needle nose pliers or a fingernail sometimes to get the components off. This one's been all hot glued. If you need to replace the motherboard, very difficult to get at these fasteners back here in the corner without dropping the bottom tray. So we like to drop the bottom tray for access. So consider that, unless you have a trap door that allows you to get to it easier. Over here is the power supply. If you ever need to replace the power supply, take a picture, label all the connections so you know which connection goes where when you're putting the new one back in. The power supply is held in place with a couple of fasteners, just two I think. One in this corner here, and then there's another one in this corner over here. And you can get to them through the bottom tray. So you'll need a pair of pliers to hold the nut and a driver for the back to unscrew the fasteners. And then you can replace your power supply. So I want to check and make sure I got everything here. Tensioner, carriage cover, carriage. For your time, if you have any questions, please contact us and we can walk you through it or point you to the right place in the tutorials to help you repair your cutter. Thank you. Okay, looks like we missed one part during our little fly-through. I forgot to mention on the right side here, we have the belt, the drive belt for the roller bar. So if your drive belt for the roller bar is loose, here you can see it's very tight. So that's really good for the drive belt. But the servo motor here is in the rear. And in order to tighten this belt or replace it, should you need to, you loosen these fasteners here. There's 4 of them. Once this is loose, what you're going to do is you're going to pull on the motor from the back with the rear cover off, and then fasten it with this under tension. And you can see there's some slots here to allow you to move this motor a little bit to tension this belt, or to remove the tension to replace the belt and then put a new belt on. So I think that covers everything now.